this is something that, when I decided to call the company HBCU Gameday, obviously I'm a sports guy, I'm a sports writer, but, sports journalism is my background. But I understand that, I haven't gone to a HBCU, Winston-Salem State University, that, the entire game day experience is something that makes HBCUs unique. So, definitely happy to be amongst you gentlemen, and this is a situation where I definitely, this is one of the times I can definitely say I know the least of everyone that's on the panel about what we're talking about, but I think it's definitely an important discussion for everyone. Everyone loves HBCU bands, whether you're a novice or only half or a quarter as much as you guys do, being in this world. Everyone loves HBCU bands, and I think the floor has been raised, and the ceiling has been unfurled, as far as with this band competition that you guys have going on in Atlanta. I know I was talking to Mr. Grant a couple, just during a couple times. He mentioned it last year. It was in the works, and so when the announcement came out in over the summer, it was really a big thing, and I think it looks like it's going to be even bigger than a lot of us thought it was. So, with that in mind, I don't want to do a lot of the talking. I just kind of want to facilitate the conversation. We were able to drop the initial band rankings for 2023, but I know that this has been an ongoing process for you guys back for the last couple of years. So, whoever wants to hop on first, just introduce yourself and tell me, what it is that, just kind of, talk to me about the genesis of this and how it got started to where we are today.
I'll jump in, and I'm going to pass the torch to our illustrious chairs. So I'll just get it started. And I really want the focus to be on these guys, and, because America wants to know who they are. And my name is Don P. Roberts, and I serve as the executive consultant for the ESPN Band of the Year rankings. I worked in this position with ESPN by way of the undefeated Anscape since 2017. So this is a project that has slowly developed since 2017, and here we are in 2022. We've done it every year with the exception of the COVID year. And now, rather than just having the rankings come out and naming the top bands monthly, we're bringing them to Atlanta, December 15th, 2023, as a prelude to the Celebration Bowl. So I give credit to Mr. John Grant, the executive director for ESPN Events, for his vision, and, being able to step outside the box that most people would dare not to go down that line. If you say left, John is going to go right. You say up, he's going to go down. He's going to push the button, the opposite of what people think or how far they think they can go. And I think in the long run, HBCU bands, HBCU football is going to be better for it. And just one last little plug about Mr. Grant before I go to the adjudicators. He is one of the most influential African Americans, top 20 by Sports Illustrated magazine for college football. So I guess we need to add band to that now, and not just football. But our panel, our chairs, these guys are second to none. Their resumes are incredible. They are, they come from some of the most distinguished programs in America. Dr. White, by way of Florida A&M University, Professor Dowell Taylor, by way of Jackson State University. They have an incredible track record for teaching as music educators, but also as HBCU band directors. So we needed someone to take the lead on this position. We vetted almost every HBCU band director in America. And while there were some great applicants or great people for the job that we could have looked at, it came down to these two gentlemen. And I say that with all sincerity, that I have not gotten any kickback from any HBCU band director once they found out who the chairs of their leading out panel. So I like to acknowledge Professor Dowell Taylor, chair, and Dr. Julian Lee White, chair.
Well, John, I'm probably the oldest person among this group, to Mr. Grant, Don Roberts, and Prof. Broward, and Mr. Gaither. Certainly a pleasure for me to be here with you. And first of all, just a little bit about myself. I bring to this table 60 years of teaching. I started out teaching in Jacksonville, Florida at Northwest Junior Senior High School, and I built the program there from about 65 to over 200 students. And then I was hired at Florida A&M University, where my highest number of students in the band were over 400. So I am proud to be a part of this process because, as I said earlier before we came on the air, this is tremendous. And I think the financial gains, those things are great. However, I would allude to the educational aspects of this process. Looking at the bands from Honda and up to now, I have seen tremendous improvement in the bands. And the comments that we have given over the years, I have received very few negative comments regarding what we are doing. And most of them, 95% of them says, well, I appreciate the comments you made. Would you mind talking with me on the telephone about it? And I do that and freely pass information on to them. So again, I'm just honored to be a part of this auspicious interview and panel, and I look forward to us continuing through this process.
And I'll just piggyback on what Dr. White has said. It's actually a great opportunity and an honor to actually serve with Dr. White. Most people in the band world have looked up to him and his accomplishments across the years. So thank you for co-chairing this event with Dowell Taylor. And I also would like to, I'd like to say that I've been in the field since 1977 and 40 years at the higher education, 40 plus. And most of those years have been out on the gridiron. And everybody who's been a band director of any sort know that that's not an easy job. It's a tough job. Sometimes it's a thankless job, but we pursue it anyway. And this event is actually one that I'm proud to be a part of, primarily because it gives us the opportunity to give educational feedback to those directors. Sometimes we get caught up in playing across the field, over here, over there, back and forth, and you start thinking that you're the king of the hill and nobody can play on your level. But now here you are thrust into an environment where professionals are judging you. Professionals from colleges and retired professionals. It's like we know what we're looking for. We know what we're doing. We know all about all of the categories: musicality, drill, design, auxiliaries. We know about those. So we are excited. I am about giving educational feedback to the directors so that they can go back and look at our comments and then do better or improve their program in the long run. And I think as co-chairs, we are excited to do that.
Chairs, we haven't talked a lot about the who's on the panel. And I know we've agreed not to name the members of the panel until Atlanta, but can you talk about the panel, the caliber of people that are on the panel, either one of you guys? I know you have two teams and you cross over, but if you just talk about, I'm sure America would love to know, something about these guys that are, and ladies that are adjudicated.
All right, I'll just jump ahead since I was talking, and then I'll just pass the baton. On my team, I have some outstanding directors. And these directors actually, some of them I have even performed in the same arena with. They have a level of professionalism and they have a level of knowledge about the field that there should not be any ill feelings at the end of the day, at the end of this process. We are confident that when we get to Atlanta on December 15th, whoever is chosen as the band of the year will be the band of the year because of the panel of judges we have.
Let me echo just what Prof. Dowell Taylor just mentioned. it's kind of an educational battlefield. And some of you, all of you know, all of us know Isaac Gregg, Patty Gregg from Southern University. Well, we were in Atlanta playing a football game, and Patty Gregg, we were talking on the telephone some kind of way. And Patty Gregg said, Julian, let me tell you something, man. I'm going to hurt you, man. But the hurt is not going to last long. And, you know, that was Patty Gregg. What he could produce. I mean, let me tell you something. Patty Gregg could produce a band, and you better be ready for him because he's going to come after you. And that kind of the educational aspects of that, when we, as Prof. Taylor just mentioned, we're in the arena. We've been in the arena with these bands. And sir, Mr. Gaither, those bands have improved. And back in the day, Florida A&M got everything. And somewhere the president said, I want a band like Florida A&M. What do I need? Okay, I need instruments, I need uniforms, I need scholarships, I need staff. And they were able to get those things because of the popularity of the bands. And so bands improved over the years. And you know, when I retired, I'll say whenever I get in the same state with Jackson State, I know I better be ready. So Benedict, wherever, I better be ready because those guys are gonna come after you. And then after the game, we sit somewhere and we drink a beer, you know, not on the trip, of course, but you know, we sit around and we talk about what we have done and what we need to do to improve. So just being in this arena with these quality judges, because they have the expertise. These guys, you know, as I said, I've been in here for over 60 years, and I watched them grow. I watched Don Roberts was one of my students, and I watched him take that Southwestern Camp High School band across the nation because he was equipped, he was ready, and he had the initiative to develop his talent. And that the quality of the band directors who are judging, and they're not judging in the same conference. Right. And so the integrity of those band directors and their ability, that thing is really something. And you know, we say HBCU bands, but I'll tell you something, these HBCU bands have some PWI bands who are trying to imitate. You know, I was in a class and sometimes my students say, Doc, you talk too much. But I recall being in a class with a professor, and he talked about those gyration bands, those gyrating back bands and all of that kind of thing. And it kind of hurt my feelings. But now 10 years later, here they are coming doing what we do. Because the president says, I want more. The high school band director says, look, sir, we want to hire you. We're tired of seeing the same show every week. We want to see some action. And the band directors are able to deliver. And I think that's very important. They can deliver to the audience, to the faculty and administrators. And so the quality of those band directors on these panels are really unquestionable. They're just fantastic.
Yeah, and you know, you said so much there, and I just want to you know, briefly, you know, just touch on a little bit of some of the things that you said. You know, for one, I know for someone like me who, you know, I'm a sports fan first, and I recognize the importance of the bands. And part of the reason for us at HBCU Gameday, one of the struggles has been, you know, we know how to cover a game because we know what the score is and things like that. But I think that one of the great things about what you guys are doing and what this Band of the Year competition really is going to is bringing about is the actual scoring and the competition. And you can know that this band has gone through this process, and it's like everybody's going through the same thing. Just talk about the importance of that and how you guys are establishing that to where it's not just always, you know, to me it would kind of, you know, to the untrained ear it may kind of be subjective, you know, but now, you know, you guys being a little bit more definitive, even though it's not a head-to-head thing, at least at this portion of the contest.
If I get the chairs, if you could talk about the categories, if you guys just take one each: musicality, pictures, drill, and design, percussion, auxiliaries, and drum majors. If you want to just kind of talk about how you guys go about adjudicating those areas.
This is the beauty of this process, is because bands, we're just not talking off the top of our heads. We have actual categories that these bands are judged in. For example, musicality, for example, we are trying to determine whether you are using proper phrasing. We are trying to determine whether you have dynamic contrast. We are trying to determine whether you have proper blend and balance. We're also trying to determine whether you are committed to intonation. And, you know, we live in a time now where bands have gravitated toward being loud. And this is why this whole process is going to be invaluable, because sometimes loudness is not where it's at when you sit down and really have to listen and evaluate and analyze and assign scores. So in musicality, these bands will have to read their comments and say, wow, I thought I blew them away. You may have, but how did you do it? What was it palatable to the ears? Was it musical? And that's just one of the categories.
That's why you want to talk about picture drill and design, perhaps, or I want to piggyback on musicality.
I'll just piggyback and then transition because Mr. Gaither, sir, you mentioned that you're not a musician, but you're the audience. You are. I like to tell my students, you've got to give the people a show, and you've got to want to win. And so we're playing to you. Now you might not know whether they're in tune, out of tune, or ensemble, blend and balance, that kind of thing, but you can say that band sounds good or that band sounds bad. And then you go to the march, the drill designs. You know, I look at drill designs. I'm in church and I see this stained window, and I said, "Wow, that'd make a good drill if I did this." I'm walking down a hall and I see these designs in the rug, and I say that, "Wow, this would make a good drill," and I've done it that way. So the first thing they have to do with drill and design is determine what kind of designs they're going to do. Are they going to do circles? Are they going to do squares? Are they going to do company front, step two drill, two real march? Are they going to do those kind of things? And so as a panel, this expert panel takes a look. Now let me see, a line straight. So Mr. Gaither, you're going to say, I don't know what, but I know those lines are crooked. And I can see those lines are not in place. So we're giving contrast to say, Mr. Band Director, you're doing a great job, but let's check on your alignment. Make sure that you have your nose centered on the body of the person that in front of you, so that line is straight, so that company front is straight. The designs themselves, you're making a train on the field. If that train, does that train look well? And if the drill is designed well, you can look at it and say, oh, that's a train, that's a car, that's a man shooting a basketball, that's a circle. And so you do that, but if the person see, and they've got to figure out more than say 30 seconds what it is, then there's something missing from the quality of that drill. So the drill and design and execution. So you march, you see an HBCU band, and we kind of get, all of us kind of get what we call 90 degrees. You got to get that thigh parallel with the ground. You have to have that toe pointed. Well, an evaluation of that marching and maneuvering is the fact that these experts are going to look and say, let me see now, are those thighs down the line parallel? Are they clean? Are they neat? When they do the knee lift, are they pointing their toes? You can see that, oh, they're marching flat foot. That's not good. But I'm pointing my toes, I'm letting my toe hit the ground first and then my heel, and vice versa coming up. And so those kind of things are really important, because we are playing really not to the musicians. There are 50,000 people there, and only a small percentage of them are musicians. So we have got to make sure that we create the kind of designs that are recommended by this panel of judges. And I think that, you know, musicality number one, drill design and execution number two.
And just to piggyback that on just a second, every now and then, this panel will be confronted with a different style of drill. A different style of drill design. We see patterns and motions a lot. That's a bread and butter thing. But every now and then you'll see some core style drills come in. And the beauty of our panel is we know what to do with it. We know what we see when we see swirls. We know compressions. We know follow the leader. We know arcs. We know all of that. So everything we see, we will be able to evaluate it on a particular level.
If I can interject just one moment, Mr. Gaither, the other categories are percussion. We have auxiliaries, which includes your flag, your dancers, your majorettes, and we also have the drum majors. But what I would like, if at all possible, for the adjudicators to talk about the halftime aspect. You see a lot of bands now, it's all about the zero quarter. It's all about the fifth quarter. This adjudication is about making halftime relevant, staying relevant. And some people even think, if you read a lot of the blogs that are out there, that, halftime is not as important as playing in the stands. If I can get the adjudicators to talk about the history and the foundations of what made HBCU bands great in comparison to being on the field, and what, in your careers, you got long tenure careers, how important is halftime to HBCU culture? You want to guys?
Okay, I can jump in. Go ahead, Doc.
You go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, for me, I've always told my staff that halftime is number one. Zero quarter will come and it'll go. Fifth quarter will come and they'll talk about it on social media and it'll leave. But what you do at halftime will be there. And it's important that you use that opportunity to display all of the technical facilities of your group. You see, our bands are unique. HBCU bands are unique. We can play Rachmaninoff. We can play Verdi. We can play Puccini. But our genre of choice is popular music of today and yesterday. That does not give us the license to bastardize that music. We still must be committed to the basic elements of good musicianship. And I put halftimes at a high level of significance when it comes to marching band pageantry or the game day experience. Halftime is it for me. I do that other stuff, but halftime is it for me.
Go ahead, Mr. Roberts.
No, I want you to answer, Dr. White.
Prof. Taylor, absolutely correct. The essence of the show of what happens at a football game is the first quarter, the second quarter, the halftime show for the marching band, and then the third quarter and the fourth quarter. The fifth quarter and the zero quarter, first of all, you lose it a lot because more than half the people leave the stadium at the end of the fourth quarter, or actually sometimes in the beginning, and even more sometimes after the band's finished, they leave. And so the zero quarter, you can't really play but so much because they get ready for Stars Bank of Banner, they'll line up the fields and this kind of thing. But the halftime show is it. This is where you display all of your musicality. This is where you display your variety of drills, of execution that you do for the people to enjoy. And so sometimes we get out of place. And I've heard students say, well, your band can win the halftime show, but you're not going to win the zero in the fifth quarter. Well, that doesn't matter to me because I'm not competing for the fifth quarter and the zero quarter. I'm on for the halftime show. I'm on to give the people a show so that when they leave that football game, they want more. They want more of that halftime show. They want to see all the kind of animation that we have. We have cars moving down the field. We have airplanes moving down the field with smoke coming out of them. We have states, outlines of state, all these kind of things that creates an interest in the eye of the beholder, which is the audience. So, and see, the other thing too is that with halftime shows, many of our bands start to become boring at halftime. That's why we see Coach's Corner, a report, NFL report, AFL report, all these kind of things, because the producers said, look, we're not getting anything out of halftime shows. The shows are boring, all they're showing are majorettes and this kind of thing. So let's go to Coach's Corner. And then they start to generate revenue. And so bands are out for halftime shows. Now, when they do solicit halftime shows and they're playing an HBCU, many of the schools will say, because we're having college band now playing PWI institutions. And so, we're basically sometimes going in and getting slaughtered. And I have my opinion about whether or not we should be doing that or not. But they need to make sure that they are doing the kind of things that's not going to cause them to lose sight of the purpose of the halftime show. And so really, the halftime show is just it. The halftime, with this Band of the Year, ESPN Band of the Year, they don't want anything about zero quarter or fifth quarter. They want to see what the band can do on the field at halftime, because halftime is the essence of what the game is about with the halftime show.
And I want to say this before we take a little quick break and go back over to the next link. I just want to, one of the biggest criticisms that we've gotten over the past few years was that we needed a category for zero quarter. We needed a category for the stand battles. We needed categories for the fifth quarter. And I want to be very clear. I enjoy fifth quarter. I enjoy zero quarter. I think it adds to the HBC culture immensely. And I've seen several recently, a lot of band columns. I mean, a lot. And band heads know what I'm talking about. That, halftime is not as important as it used to be. It's all about playing in the stands. And so for those people that, criticizing us, go ahead and do that. You go ahead and do your own competition for stand battles. Our focus is going to be on halftimes. ESPN has dedicated itself to showing HBCU bands at halftime. If you're watching a game, it's the only network where you can flip over to one of the other ESPN networks and watch halftime. So I know some people not going to like the comments we're making about the zero fifth. We love the zero and the fifth, but this particular band of the year, you got to show it on the field. You got to show what you can do on the field. We're going to do a fifth quarter at the end of the band of the year. We're going to stay in the tradition. However, the points will count at halftime. So, gentlemen, I really appreciate you talking about the history and the culture of how our programs were built first and foremost, which is halftime, and that's what this particular event is going to be all about.